Mileage tells a great deal about the vehicle you're about to buy. It can tell you how much longer the car will probably function and how much maintenance you're going to have to put into it. That's why the state and federal governments take such a hard line on tampering. Penalties can range up to 4 years in prison and $10,000 in fines on each count. But dealers say such tampering is quite rare and usually fairly apparent to an experienced buyer.
We basically look at their car when we go out and appraise the car. We look at the carpet, we look at the steering wheel, the brake pedals. We could tell by just looking at the car if something's unusual.
Wear patterns can tell you a lot if you know what you're looking for. And title laws are very strict too. If an odometer is replaced or altered for some reason, it must be recorded. Car manufacturers also make odometer tampering very difficult. In many cases, the entire dash must be removed, and replacing it generally leaves some signs. Still, it can be done.
Agreed. They're just trying to get rich off of something that they bought a car and trying to make a lot of money on it, and that's dumb. You just don't do that.
Authorities say one of the best ways to protect yourself is to ask your dealer who last owned the vehicle, and then call them and ask what they used it for. A reputable dealer should have no qualms about providing you with that information. While tampering with odometers is rare, it does happen. Dealers say the best way consumers can protect themselves is be aware and be careful. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
Two years ago, he performed the same investigation and could find no evidence that there was price fixing. And the Attorney General is a very dogged individual, and I'm certain that he'll perform another in-depth investigation and will await his findings.
But for seniors who have a mentality oftentimes of saving and not spending, and now they discovered that they might have a second mortgage on their house, the shame of having gambled away their children's inheritance. How great a shame for them. And what do they do in order to conquer that shame from their way of thinking? They gamble more.
Gas is almost as much of a necessity in today's world as food and water. That's why so many people are scrutinizing this week's antitrust investigation into the possibility of price fixing in Duluth. The Minnesota Attorney General has opened an office in Duluth and established a hotline for consumer calls. Investigators will staff that office to meet with anyone who feels they might have information about possible collusion from 2 to 5 all this week. This is the third formal investigation in Duluth in less than 10 years. The past two came up empty-handed. The hope is that this time things will be different, but Chief Investigator Paul Kampanen says this probe will be conducted basically the same as in the past.
Our investigation is going to be aimed at finding whether there is any evidence, actual evidence that exists of such agreements among gasoline retailers or wholesalers.
The major difference will be the hotline. Investigators say price fixing is extremely difficult to prove, and so they're looking for anyone who may have overheard gas company owners or operators talking about setting prices. The Duluth Seniors Coalition hopes their 5,000 members might be able to help. For the past year and a half, they've been watching gas prices and recording what they are and exactly what time they changed. This morning, they turned those records over to the investigators and then held a news conference to ask for others to help as well. The Seniors Coalition chose this mobile gas station because prices here for regular unleaded are $1.25.9. That's about 4 cents lower than their competitors in town. The Seniors Coalition wants area people to support this gas station with an owner willing to go against what the others are doing. The coalition feels the fact that the majority of others all have the
Well,
same
have
price
that.
is a clear
Just stop and
indication of
think for a minute.
wrongdoing.
In Duluth, we have a long town, 28 miles long, like a big banana. And when the prices in Lakeside change, they also change in Gary at the same time, I want you to know. That just doesn't happen. I'm sorry.
Chief Investigator Paul Kampanen says it's important that people understand that high prices are not the same as fixed prices. There are no regulations that control the upper level for gas pricing, only communication among gas sellers to set those prices. There is a law, however, that sets how low prices can go. The sales below cost law says no retailer can set his price lower than 8% below cost. Kampanen says he hopes the Attorney General's office works to eliminate that law, but says his office would not support the setting of upper limit price controls. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
You figured you were doing the right thing in disposing your oil of
It was legal at the time. Even the city trucks used to come and get some of that drain oil and put it on the roads to keep the dust down. Now we got to pay for it, which I think is really wrong.
Nurses at Hibbings-Mesabi Regional Medical Center say at the least they've cut their losses and paved a road to securing their futures. 109 nurses cast their ballots, ratifying a 2-year contract by a hefty majority today. Their priority list, an improved pension plan and a plan to reduce hospital overtime.
I'm glad we did not have to go out on strike. I'm sure this will help the community to know that their nursing care will be there when they need it.
Healthcare workers will be there, but not in the force they were before. Hospital administrators have their sights set on a leaner staff. Beginning September 1st, nurses' hours will be cut back, many positions eliminated, forcing some to compete for jobs outside their specialty area. The restructuring plan was not part of the new contract, and as officials say, not up for negotiation. But legal issues surrounding the cutbacks may force the hospital back to the bargaining table. A few weeks ago, the nurses group filed a lawsuit for unfair labor practice.
Yeah, that's something now that's really out of the nurses' hands. That's being dealt with by the National Labor Relations Board. They're currently investigating the process to see if it was done properly or not.
Hospital administrators say they have no choice. The changing face of health care is forcing the medical center to become more competitive.
That we have to be able to put ourselves in a position to deal with those changes, and that's basically what we were doing, is trying to put ourselves in a position to deal with the changes that we're going to see in healthcare over the next 6 months, 1 year, 5 years.
The medical center's restructuring will take place come this September. That we know for sure. Hospital administrators say they aren't expecting any more cutbacks, but with uncertain healthcare reforms on the way, they admit they're unsure of what the future holds. In Hibbing, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
Superior Shooters.
Business is booming at Northland Gun Shops. It was standing room only today as word of the Senate's approval of the anti-crime bill quickly spread. The bill narrowly passed last night with a ban on certain assault-style weapons intact.
And once we run out of them, that's it. They're gone.
But those opposed to Clinton's crime bill, and especially the ban on 19 types of assault weapons, say they're not giving up. Some of the stiffest opposition to the crime bill is coming from the National Rifle Association. Group members say they plan to send a strong message to Congress members come election time. At the center of their opposition, what they call attacks on the Second Amendment.
Well, the NRA has already published in their magazine the list of people that have supported this bill, and those people will be in trouble this November when it comes to elections. They are going to be in trouble.
But trouble is exactly what others believe the crime bill will help communities avoid. Frank Jewell is a member of the Violence-Free Duluth Committee. While he disagrees with the bill's allotment of more money for prisons and police officers, he's praising the bill's focus on prevention.
Actually getting the young people and getting them to change their behaviors before they ever get into crime is the part, as somebody who's interested in prevention, that's really important.
Prevention is key to the bill, but so are the 100,000 additional police officers who will soon hit the streets. Streets even Northland police say need cleaning up.
If we just say we're going to react every day, we'll never get ahead. We have to look ahead, and I think some of the prevention programs and some of the usage of those 100,000 cops that are provided for in the bill are that creativity is what's going to turn things around.
Change is exactly what Clinton is promising. The president says the bill will make every neighborhood in America safer. But that safety does not come without a price. $30 billion to be exact.
Thank you.
In Duluth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
I would have just as soon gone on my entire career without ever having to talk to another police widow.
But St. Paul Police Chief Bill Finney did have that sad task following the tragic events leading up to the shootings. Fresh flowers of sympathy from throughout the metro now front the 18 names of the police department's Hall of Honor, 18 plaques stretching over 100 years of police fallen in the line of duty. That number, unfortunately, will soon go to 20 when the names of officers Ryan and Jones are added. We now know a little more about the prime suspect, the man allegedly pulling the trigger in such a vicious manner, 26-year-old Guy Harvey Baker. The police chief, before the press today, paints a graphic and telling picture of a suspected killer who knew all along what he was doing.
Mr. Baker appears to be in full control of his whereabouts and his movements. He's a quite calculating individual. Very cool, very calm, very chilling. I just feel that he wanted to talk to us about what he did. He's certainly not remorseful about it.
Baker is confessing to the murders, and he's also telling police all about Jay Barrientos, the material witness investigators want desperately to talk to and are still searching for. Finney says that apprehension is just a matter of time. Call it a threat, call it a promise.
Do not be mistaken. We will search for you, and although we may not capture you today, capture you we will.
The tragedy and turmoil these men spread over East St. Paul still remains, even though the neighborhood around 3rd and Euclid Streets has the appearance of normalcy. Just ask around.
I didn't sleep at all.
Wisconsin residents are cleaning up and surveying the damage from the tornadoes. During the early morning hours, a house-to-house search through the debris and a gathering at the town hall accounted for all the residents of Eau Claire County, Wisconsin. However, one woman was killed as she drove along the interstate.
The fact the van was lifted up and thrown 500 feet and raised up about 80 to 90 feet, and the van rested on a cliff.
The most severe damage appears to be in Big Flats, a rural vacation area about 80 miles north of Madison. The tornado cut a 13-mile-long path through the center of the community, destroying most of the buildings along Main Street. Damage has been estimated at $4.5 million, with at least 200 homes damaged. The path of the tornado was only a half-mile wide, but in that path, homes were knocked off their foundations and stands of trees were just flattened. The damage was not limited to Eau Claire and Big Flats, as several more tornadoes touched down in Green Lake and Juneau counties. Bruce Hall, NBC News.
The city of St. Paul said goodbye to a husband, friend, and one of St. Paul's finest police officers today. At his funeral, St. Paul Police Chief Bill Finney reflected on his memories of Officer Ryan.
Today it is with the heaviest of hearts that I say goodbye to Ron Ryan Jr. We will all remember you for your courage, your heroism, your willingness to serve, that sparkle you gave those around you. And let no one ever forget that Ron Ryan Jr. was truly one of St. Paul's finest.
The spirit of Ron Ryan Jr. filled the church. Family gave hugs of support and shed tears of remembrance. In just 19 months, an officer that had been decorated and recognized for his brave commitment to saving lives.
Ron was a hard worker, never afraid to help out a fellow officer or to be the first on a call. He was a quick thinker, quick to figure out what had to be done in tough situations. Just a year ago, he and other officers formed a human pyramid to remove 3 children from a second-story burning house.
Sounds of mourning joined the procession to the cemetery. Bagpipers preceded a long line of uniforms. Law enforcement agencies and peace officers from all over the state said goodbye to a friend. Many looked on, thinking of one of St. Paul's heroes. Others cried and embraced after St. Paul police officer Ron Ryan Jr. laid to rest for the very last time. Molly McMillan, News 6.
The final trend is the customer infringing. A year ago,
administrative office in Ashland. So we encourage folks to come and see us for their training and employment needs. And under the federal program, the Job Training Partnership Act, we'd be able to provide services to them to assist them in securing meaningful employment.
Please ask yourself, you have the data in front of you, ask yourself one question. From a financial point of view, not who's for it, not who's against it, not how many people like it or dislike it or how many phone calls you have, acting as a member of a responsible board of directors for a corporation, is it the right thing to do? Is it the financially competent thing to do? It's clear that the answer is yes.
First Lady Susan Carlson is asking Minnesota communities to take action and improve the lives of our children. According to a research report called Kids Can't Wait, the quality of life for Minnesota kids is on the decline.
We're slipping in a lot of those, in some of the indicators. The number of kids in poverty, it's 1 in 5 in Minnesota now. In 1980, it was 10%. So that's what I think concerned the members of the commission, as well as the communities of color are doing much more poorly. And so we felt that there are a lot of areas that Minnesota can improve upon.
St. Louis County has emerged in recent studies as having some serious problems. Childhood poverty is rising, and more youngsters are growing up in single-parent households. Abuse and neglect cases are growing, and juvenile crime is at an all-time high. The Kids Can't Wait report has a series of recommendations for helping Minnesota's children, including mobilizing communities to work with schools and families, reducing family poverty, celebrating cultural diversity, and making child care more affordable and accessible.
As I've traveled around, I've visited a lot of daycares, and I see daycare with more and more single parents and more parents where both are working as a critical issue, and early childhood family education, getting more parents involved in those kinds of programs.
How old are you? Are you 4? You're 4. Today, Carlson toured the YWCA preschool and toddler program, a Duluth child care center that's gained national accreditation.
Accreditation means we meet the strictest standards in the country for the quality of our teachers, the quality of the curriculum, and also the physical space is exceptional, including this new playground. It also features an anti-bias curriculum, no gender bias and no racial bias in any of the curriculum.
Since Kids Can't Wait began, there's been significant progress in areas of access to health care and quality daycare. But Carlson says the government can't do it alone. She says making a better life for our children must be something the entire community embraces. In Duluth, Gina Katzmark, News 6. The last few days before primary elections are busy ones for candidates. There are press conferences to call, talk shows to appear on, envelopes to stuff, and lots of hands to shake.
Hey, this is a great group.
But will all the campaigning pay off? State officials are predicting another low turnout for next week's primary election.
I'm not impressed with any of the candidates yet, so I'm not sure if I'm even going to vote in the general election.
Officials say voter turnout next Tuesday may be just over 20%, but that figure could be much higher here in the Northland. The Duluth City Clerk's office says more than 700 absentee ballots have already arrived.
That's a very respectable showing going into a state primary, I think, for absentees.
With hotly contested races for governor, U.S. Senate, and other seats drawing attention, next Tuesday's election turnout could surprise some.
I think the primary is an especially important step because this is the time when candidates of the same party are putting forth their philosophical differences.
And the closer we get to Election Day, the more apparent those differences become.
N183, when she was in the Minnesota legislature, consistently voted against projects that allowed cities like Duluth.
As the election nears, last-minute jabs at fellow candidates are to be expected. Also expected at next week's primary is a strong showing from the Northland.
Our people in northern and most rural areas, they really cherish their votes. They feel that it's very important to vote. And the only way you can correct anything, or if you don't believe in something, is to vote.
In Duluth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
The Pony Express rides again, a piece of history the Postal Service is reliving, and a crowd with lots of letters is anxiously awaiting their arrival.
I mailed to my son last year, and this year I mailed to my grandson.
And did it make it on time last year?
Yes, it did.
It did. For the second year in a row, Arrowhead Express riders are picking up letters the old-fashioned way. The horses still prefer taking the trails to the post office, and as far as being on time,
well, we were ahead of schedule, but we slowed down a little bit.
And that's probably what happened a few years ago too, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure the mail was late a couple times.
Years ago, the Pony Express rider would stop in each town, but not just to pick up letters, but to jump on a rested horse and then ride until dawn. These riders won't deliver until dawn, but today they have gone over 60 miles. An advantage Express riders have these days is that there are many more of them to take the load. Over 20 riders volunteered this year. The disadvantage for horses is sharing the highway with cars.
It's a slow process.
But nobody seemed to mind their letters were sent out a little late today. A trip to the post office was worth the wait. Riding with Arrowhead Pony Express, Molly McMillan, News 6.
After 5 years, the group health and dental insurance contract for St. Louis County has been put out for bid. What's usually a fairly straightforward process has turned into anything but, and it's left one company extremely upset. 6 companies submitted bid proposals due August 17th. The finalists were Epic Life and Blue Cross Blue Shield. Blue Cross Blue Shield has been the county's carrier for over 20 years. The bid from Epic, however, seemed to be lower than that of the incumbents, with a $5.20 per employee monthly fee, compared to a $19 fee proposed by Blue Cross Blue Shield. With about 2,800 employees, it appeared that the Epic proposal would save the county almost $500,000 per year. Last Thursday, both companies made presentations to a 6-member subcommittee. That is when the trouble began.
In our presentation, we basically came in and defended our bid and explained how we would provide the services and so on and so forth. What we didn't know is that at that same time, Blue Cross came in and did their presentation, but they also laid another bid on the table at that time.
What Epic is calling another bid is this, an alternate administrative fee. Unveiled by the incumbent on Thursday, it lowered the Blue Cross original $19 fee down to $5.20, exactly the same as Epic's. St. Louis County Attorney Al Mitchell says it wasn't a new proposal and that it was just a new way at looking at the old fee schedule. Blue Cross Blue Shield has declined to comment. The subcommittee ended up rejecting both proposals, but tomorrow morning they'll ask the full committee for permission to negotiate with Blue Cross Blue Shield, leaving Epic out of the picture. And as you might imagine, Epic is now angry, saying that the bidding process was flawed.
If somebody comes in high at first and then all they have to do is drop down and match the competition, if competition comes, then I think the taxpayer should be somewhat concerned.
The taxpayer should save money because of this whole process. Last year, the county paid $500,000 more than they'll likely pay next year, regardless of who provides the service. The only question taxpayers may have now is, why was Blue Cross Blue Shield charging the county so much in years past? In Duluth, Ted Rowlands, News 6.
Are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea,
our military will walk in really easy, and then their military will go into hiding and wait till we leave, and then they will emerge.
Roger Cragen is one of a number of Northlanders worried that the United States is making a mistake by preparing to invade Haiti. Cragen has been to the country himself. He and other Northlanders have held regular vigils and demonstrations, asking President Clinton to stick with sanctions rather than invade.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, the information is right up there in the county auditor's office. He's received thousands of dollars in PAC money and through the state of Minnesota. And again, all he is a PAC pimp by receiving those monies. Like I say, I've challenged him to take that money and give it to the Iron Range food shelves. I have received no PAC money at all. I've received all my money through small contributors on the Iron Range. And the voter kind of says, well, I know he's for this, I know it's this. That requirements, every one of these offices can get 10 people running for it. Because there's the hope for change. Today there is no hope for change. With all this saying, the amount of politicians and the amount of people running for that office.
However, high levels of toxins such as PCBs, cadmium, benzene, lead, and barium were found in amounts that exceeded drinking water standards. If a
along the creek that have that at that point that had brook trout in them. And I think what's going to happen is there's going to reach a point, and I personally think we're at that point right now, where any more detrimental impact to Miller Creek is going to be what it takes to completely wipe out any brook trout that are existing below the mall area.
This is a follow-up. We produced something called a health consultation after our visit here. And we're explaining our findings and getting input from the community and explaining what we plan to do from this point forward.
along with Norm. He's been moving pumpkins all day. Let's go. Big hand. Oh, we hit that boy. Let's go. Henry. He's been growing pumpkins for 8 years. Joel Holland from Puyallup, Washington. He, along with Norm Gallagher, are in the Guinness Book of Records.
Okay, go ahead and step in here.
This month, the American Cancer Society is making breast cancer education job one. They are not alone. Breast cancer survivors are mounting a grassroots campaign to spread the word. Early detection is the best protection.
And within the last few years, more and more survivors have talked more openly about it. They've talked about the need to have mammography rather than just breast self-exam, and the treatments have improved as well.
The government is making sure those improvements happen. As of October 1st, every mammography facility in the United States must obtain this FDA certificate. The certificate shows the center has met certain quality standards.
And this is really something that mammography centers, if they're of high quality, should be doing already, but is to follow up an abnormal mammogram report by calling the physician or having some method in place of making sure that these people don't get, quote, lost in the system.
Here in the Northland, the American Cancer Society is also working to save lives. Starting today, breast cancer education is just a phone call away. Women can call the Cancer Response Center at 1-800-ACS-2345. Callers will receive informational packets, including listings of facilities offering low-cost mammograms.
You can breathe.
Early detection guidelines are simple. Examine your breasts monthly. Make sure to have an annual doctor's examination, and perhaps most importantly, a screening mammogram. Simple steps to beating the 1 in 9 odds of being diagnosed with breast cancer.
And it's just a factor of aging. But it's always the other folks. I'll be one of the 8. The other folks will be the 1. And that's the perception that we need to dispel so that people get in and get it detected early.
In Duluth, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
Talked about the fact that she doesn't want the 1 in 9 focused on the negative side effect because they're
The fire at this point in time appears to have originated on the east wall, outside the east wall of the credit union and in the old hardware department when it was a co-op store.
But what we'd like to see here in Duluth is that the process continue, that the City Charter Commission transfer the matter up to the City Council, and the City Council make the decision to hold action on it until the State Supreme Court decision.
close bond real quick with the guys that I work with. It's a young life for this job. They'll take a written test. There'll be a series of we'll get quality. And so we're hoping with this announcement today and with our increased area coverage that we'll get more people to apply for a position with the Duluth Police Department. We want people that are representative of our community. We want people that are diverse in their thinking, in their ways, that will represent this community.
And Phil Graham, and we worked up a little ditty.
President of the United States.
Bar and I are looking forward to watching the show, but I'm going to warn you. I'm a channel surfer. And if the sketches get long, I'm going to flip right over to Tales from the Crypt. Just kidding, Dana.
On that funky thing you do back there?
Fellow Americans, this is George Bush. I was your president from 1989 to 1993.
This subsidy. After all, these major employers have to compete in a global marketplace, and keeping them competitive helps maintain and provide jobs for all of us in this part of the country.
More than 1/3 of the jobs are going to get effort, so that if you
detailed questions, I'm sure.
20th. The Commission's address in St. Paul is on this sign. You'll all see that.
We all understand that there are increases that need to be made. We also
and also the St. Mary's Auxiliary. And a lot of people have never had a place to go. Their child has been cremated or and has been scattered in terms of the cremain someplace, or they've had to move. So this gives people a place to come if they would like to spend some time, and it's a nice area, and just to be quiet and gentle while they're here.
We remember them. When we have
future, as I mentioned, is that now that this has happened to me, what am I going to do about it? And I think your presence was and honor children who have died. Dreams not complete. We're here to remember children who have loved, cared about.
Are you guys already filming?
Taking tests. They're taking a test of Len.
Len will break it.
We quite frankly believe that those who were involved in the sending of waste oil
people on who had signed up on the list yesterday, everyone will get a ticket. There will be additional tickets available. We don't know for sure how many, but those will be distributed by the College Democrats also.
apartments. A lot of them will be going to people who are not necessarily homeless, but are in very, very cold apartments and places that are just have nothing.
To some of the licenses and permits. Well, that's all well and good, but it's not significant apparatus that our fire department uses, and they take, that's wrong. That's wrong. That isn't right. It's new money for these new projects, then you cut the projects. And let me tell you something. If you think it's bad this year, if they don't create new revenue by next year, you watch the services cut. You're not just going to see a couple of things cut. You're going to see a lot cut. You're going to see employees laid off, and you're going to see devastating service cuts in the city of Superior. I guarantee it.
I think it looks real good. You know, right now it's a little shy on the amount of entrance and everything, but I talked to a lot of my friends up in Alaska and all over the states here, and I think you're going to see another great turnout.
buckets of potatoes.
And it is really a tradition that belongs in Advent because it is something that the Scandinavians would serve anytime during Advent, especially on Christmas Eve.
And firm is what we look for.
And we didn't find any bad pieces.
Don't slip on that water.
We had to refill all the potatoes.
Okay.
Well, they're smart.
Provide a monthly financial statement. Look at how this operates and better it. I mean, you can't just say those practices.
This is the beginning of our future. I mean, this is our chance to start. We know the problems are and all, straighten them all, and forget about all the politics and the fighting. Those things are gone.
And how can we believe anything that is said that comes from that test from now on, if we can't have this total trust that they are telling us things, and the things we should rightfully have the knowledge to. And we aren't exactly stupid, and that's what I think they're implying, that we are so ignorant that we don't need this information.
Last March, Melinda Hunter suspected something was bothering her son Brandon, but because so little is known about Tourette syndrome, she thought his behavior was typical of every growing boy, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I thought at first I was a bad parent, or I must have done something wrong, or somehow it was my fault.
Tourette syndrome is inherited and is characterized by sudden outbursts. Certain medications have helped Brandon live what is the most normal life possible, but for a 7-year-old, it's hard to accept that you are different.
I remember one incident, we went grocery shopping, and everybody, these women would whisper and point and stand way back and just kind of...
House.
I was sitting at home one day and I just was fed up. I thought, I'm not the type of person that can just sit home. I can't do it.
Now, as she sits at her computer, Melinda says she looks back at days when she didn't know how to deal with Brandon's disorder and finds comfort in the fact that she can spend more time with him at home.
Times are tough, but I figure I'm tougher.
In Gary, Molly McMillan, News 6.
There are survivors. Several have been transported to area hospitals. A search is underway currently to locate other survivors.
Now, we're hoping that people won't look at that and say, wow, you know, if I'm in an abusive relationship, I've just got to stick it out, and a few broken noses and broken arms are nothing compared to getting killed someday. Comes into our office, are we quick enough in responding to issue warrants to then get law enforcement to have a legal document saying we got to go out? Improvements that can be made in the domestic situation. Unfortunately, the numbers are so big. Like I say, it's just a real frustrating situation, and a lot of people are working real hard and care a lot to do something about it, but
Holy Father, you have come and chosen me now. Of your
Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men.
This year, the Cloquet Fire Department and Ambulance Service has handled nearly 1,600 emergency runs. That's 500 more than a decade ago, but staffing has remained the same. Cloquet's combination firefighter emergency medical technicians say they'll be approaching the City Council in the new year and asking for additional crew members and paramedic training.
When you call 911, you want them there, but they also have big budgets which eat up tax dollars, and people don't want to pay increased taxes.
However, firefighter EMT Kevin Schroeder says expanding the city's emergency services budget is necessary. Currently, whenever they have multiple calls, they have to bring in someone on overtime or call in volunteer emergency responders from area townships. Last year, the city paid more than $70,000 in overtime. Along with 4 additional crew members, Cloquet firefighter EMTs say they would like the city to budget for paramedic training.
Real quick, in a trauma scene, you can run out of, I hate to say run out of things to do, but once you've established the airway and you have oxygen running at our level and you've controlled the bleeding, we're basically done. Then it becomes a situation where we have to transport, where if the paramedics at that point, we could start IVs, and that would certainly help in a lot of situations.
The cost of upgrading the fire and ambulance service has been estimated at about $200,000. But that's an expense responders say will be worth it during the next big emergency. In Cloquet, Gina Katzmark, News 6.
When the jury is impaneled next week, they'll be asked about their feelings and relationships with black people. In this case, 2 of the 3 victims are black. Todd Warren, the accused shooter, is white. It's been more than 9 months since the triple homicide in Duluth's East Hillside neighborhood. The crime shook the entire Duluth community. Sam Witherspoon, Keith Hermanson, and Peter Moore were shot and killed during a party to celebrate Witherspoon's 21st birthday. And now, just days from the trial, Todd Warren's attorney says his client is innocent, though would not reveal his trial strategy.
We want to do our best to get a fair trial and get a fair hearing by a jury, and I'm not going to discuss those things. However, I am going to tell you that Todd Warren is not guilty, and we intend to pursue that defense and expect that that will be the result when the trial's over.
But according to documents in the court file, the defense will assert at trial that any involvement of Warren in the 3 murders was precipitated by sexual abuse of his girlfriend and another young woman by the victims in this case. Prosecutor Mark Rubin declined an invitation to be interviewed before the trial, although prosecutors have listed more than 100 possible witnesses. Holmstrom, meanwhile, says Warren has been prejudiced by information given to the media about what happened the morning of the shootings.
Much of that information is not true. It is going to be difficult to attempt to impanel an impartial jury. I'm going to do my best to see that it can be done.
Holmstrom would not say whether Todd Warren would take the stand in his own defense, But he did say that during this trial there will be surprises and that many people will be shocked. At the St. Louis County Courthouse, Bill Lund, News 6.
We decided on Monday to go ahead with the race and then reconsidered on Tuesday for fear that the conditions are bad. The swamps are all open. There's 2 or 3 creeks that we'd have to cross that we'd actually have to build bridges for to, in order to run the race.
Got into the wall, and that's all we know. And the thing is that this is supposed to be a dream for us because it's concrete, but the walls are concrete, the floor is concrete, but it got into the pipe race or someplace from and it ran from unit to unit to unit.
It's just like one of the biggest miracles I've ever had in my life.
At the insistence of her parents, Mary Dow gave up her baby for adoption 40 years ago. For years, she searched for him unsuccessfully.
I've always wanted to see him, but it was impossible, it seemed like, to see him. It seemed like every time I would start getting into some of the realms of trying to find him, somebody would throw a roadblock up into there, so.
3 months ago, daughter Holly contacted Lutheran Social Services for help. On Monday, they got the word her half-brother John had been found in Colorado.
I came home from my sister's and there was 3 messages on my answering machine from him. And then I called him back and he got here Wednesday.
I didn't know that I had, brothers and sisters and whether anybody was alive. I knew since about 3 or 4 years old that I was adopted. But other than that, this really took me by surprise.
After what John describes as a wonderful reunion with his newfound family, he returned to Denver this morning. As for his biological mom, she offers this advice to other families considering whether they should search for long-lost loved ones.
Oh, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid because you miss out so much if you do.
Atlanta Boy Scout troop filed into a Lenore motel late this evening. It has been an unbelievably cruel day for them. 3 of their troop members...
They're emotionally shook up. They've got a lot of concerns for their fellow man. So right now what we're trying to do is make sure that they're comfortable with some warm clothes, a warm shower, and something to eat and drink at this time.
Residents in a trailer park near 321 and 268 were very worried about a creek that had been flowing behind their park. You've been keeping an eye on this.
Yeah, for the last 2 hours.
What's it been doing?
Well, in the last hour it's come up quite a bit, and so I've just been keeping an eye on it.
The early morning earthquake toppled hundreds of buildings, collapsed major roadways, knocked trains off their tracks, and set off raging fires.
At first, my father called me. His voice was on answering machine, but I didn't know how awful. Yeah, I thought not big.
Every other Wednesday. Right. Is it a particular type of business, or are you doing just existing?
Judges that form a panel just got together again about 10 days ago and reviewed judging criteria and finalized what it should look like for this year. And they're real bullish on it and feel as though it was a good effort that results in businesses being better prepared for going out there and doing something that is in effect the American dream, but it's an extraordinary challenge.
So far, we figure we've come up with 7 people who have been infected. We're doing follow-up, monitoring them. We'll get them started on medicine, maybe one other probable. But none of these people would be infectious at this time. We're not worried about spread to other people at this time.
But part of it's we're fighting lack of sunlight. Light's going to be very important. We're looking for a red chaparral snow machine, and if we find that, it should narrow our search quite a bit.
I got one too. Yeah, this is really slick. Oh, you can see real good. It's deeper than hell.
Today's assignment for students at Lincoln School didn't start with signing a name on a test. Instead, kids took part in the democratic process of voting to select a name for their new school, complete with poll workers and a ballot box.
Children studied the process and have worked hard at that, and now hopefully it's an experience that they'll carry into their adulthood and something they'll really remember.
With close to 500 kids voting, it became obvious the choice for a new name wasn't going to be easy today. Just like in real politics, each student had their own campaign for the perfect name.
I think that the Great Lakes should be honored for all that they've done for us.
Sure, the principal could have picked the name himself, but administrators at Lincoln School wanted to get the kids involved, saying that by voting, they'd be able to look back years later and be some of the only students that would say they named their school together.
I think that's probably been the neatest part, is that you see kids coming out and sharing their abilities and talents in a way that never quite expected. And there's been a real strong commitment to help the people on their team.
Finally, after counting the ballots, the moment that would make history happened.
Great Lakes Elementary School, 187 votes.
Screams and cheers followed in the gym at Lincoln as the new name was revealed. It looks like for the next 50 years, students from Dewey, Lincoln, and Pattison will walk through the doors of the Great Lakes Elementary School after it opens this summer. In Superior, Molly McMillan, News 6. Part of the idea behind giving the Minnesota driver's license a new look was to get the new card to the driver faster. Instead, the Department of Motor Vehicles has been backlogged with frustrated drivers getting their pictures retaken. The problem started months ago with the company that makes the new license. They promised it would take less time and be tamper-resistant. But with any new system, there are quirks.
Welfare will no longer exist. It will no longer be part of the vocabulary. Welfare is going to become a jobs program.
Oh, this helps us out tremendously. We've had a number of business potentials come into town, and they're good businesses, but they're marginal, and they need a little extra help, and they can't get the normal bank loan. This is going to be another fund available for us to be able to have them tap into. And of course, the bottom line is providing jobs for people in our community.
The ambulance service has been talking to residents. What has reaction been?
Is this fairly close to a vote, or where are they at?
There will not be an acceptance of Medicare assignment with a private provider, and the bills are hundreds of dollars higher for 40% of our users, which would be senior citizens.
One of the things.
The week is filled with activities, math, science activities. They work with local scientists doing research projects. They go on field trips to research facilities, and it's a lot of fun.
This is an over not there in recent years. Yeah. Did you have to be famous for? She said, I really had hoped it would be chemistry, but yeah. Like, oh my God. Easily envision a graduate student picking that one up.
Do a tremendous job for us. And every year, they, for a while, school district, principals.
And going to music. Also, please stand up for youth and concentrate.
I think that DARE was a good idea because it teaches us all of the things that drugs can do to you and your brain. It also teaches us many ways to say no to drugs.
You know, did your dad tell me, or knowing that no one was helping you at the school, how did you feel each day when you went to school?
Terrified. I was very afraid for my life, and I was also very afraid of just who was going to say something next. Every hallway that I went down, every corner that I turned, is there going to be somebody there that's going to hit me or throw something at me? And I felt like I was lower than like a person or a dog. I mean, people wouldn't let other people treat dogs like the way that I was treated, and it surprises me to think that it terrifies me actually to think that people let that happen.
For flexibility beyond the 3 weeks, we have.
Let me just get a couple shots.
To residents who haven't taken the exams for a long time, this would be an opportunity for them to brush up on some of those skills and perform better on the exam than going in cold.
And I first went to the entryway there, and the door was open, and I hollered to see if there was anybody in the trailer, and the little one came walking out of the smoke. So we got her out to the street to safety, and then I went to the side of the trailer and kicked the door in, and I saw a pair of little feet, and I pulled the second child out of the trailer and got her to the ambulance.
I'm very upset about it. I think that this is really out of line, or at least it's certainly unusual that we would be hiring project technicians, is that what you called him, for a specific project like this, that the mayor has been so oblique about whether he supports or not.
In the sporting community, of course, a lot of shared water bottles. That's always a concern because disease can be transmitted in that fashion. We're talking about close, intimate contact like can happen in a household setting. Again, sharing beverage containers, eating utensils.
Canada geese in flight. Their graceful images against the backdrop of a frozen landscape signify that spring is near. It's welcome news, and Minnesotans greet the first of the winged messengers bearing food.
So this is not exactly a glamorous job you have here.
No, it isn't, but somebody has to do it.
Enter Armand Tufink, a senior citizen volunteer at Como Park.
And as long as they get fed, they won't leave.
And it's what happens after they're fed.
Yeah, and then we have to take care of the residue.
They defecate somewhere between 50 and 60 times a day.
Sorry about that.
They're just like a big food processor, and they're just cranking this stuff out.
That stuff creates a real and slippery hazard on running paths. And the culprits themselves, increasing in number each year, pose a potential threat to air traffic.
To fully comprehend how big the problems become, you need only consider how big the population has become. It's grown from a mere 450 geese back in 1968 in the metro to 24,000 last year, and that's before breeding.
The Department of Natural Resources has been rounding up 4,000 geese each year in the Twin Cities and locating them elsewhere. Now, with elsewhere running out of space too,
we have to find some alternate ways to get rid of the birds, and one of them, of course, is eat them.
Actually, it's a bit more complicated than that. The DNR is conducting a pilot study this year and will have 200 of the birds killed and processed, then donate them to food banks.
This is just to see, if it's feasible to fatten the birds up, as it were, and if people will accept the birds as, as a food.
Animal welfare advocates argue there are more humane solutions to the problem, but supporters counter if a goose is cooked to satisfy the hunger of the needy, it's not just humane, it solves two problems instead of one.
Mark Furman was being led through his role at the Bundy Street murder scene and at Simpson's estate by prosecutor Marcia Clark. There is one constant theme, that Furman may have found the bloody glove at Simpson's house, but he was never alone with evidence at the murder scene, and he couldn't have moved evidence to Simpson's house without being seen by other officers.
I'm now cutting the center of the tape that's going over the analyzed evidence seal.
The big moment today came at the very end, when Marcia Clark had Mark Furman open paper bags containing evidence. In one, a large plastic bag that has been previously described as plastic sheeting, also a towel and a shovel, all taken from the back of Simpson's Bronco after Furman noticed blood on the door handle.
Well, the vehicle, as you can see, is white, and it stood out somewhat. It was a very clean vehicle.
Also a stick of wood of mysterious significance found near Simpson's Bronco. In earlier testimony, Furman described how he was ordered to jump the wall at Simpson's estate because the 4 detectives couldn't raise anyone inside the house.
So you asked Detective Van Adder if he wanted you to go over the wall?
I think I made the statement, and then he just said, okay.
So that decision was up to him to make, is that right?
Yes.
Furman described how he and the other detectives found Cato Kalin in his room, and Cato told Furman about hearing 3 thumps against his wall. This is leading to the discovery of the bloody glove, which Furman testified about in the preliminary hearing. But Marcia Clark is saving that moment for next week, and today's session ended at a point in the story just before Furman found the glove. Now, it is true that Furman was alone when he found the glove, but plainly the jury is being shown a set of circumstances in which it is highly unlikely he could have moved evidence to Simpson's house. John Gibson, NBC News, Los Angeles. Now back to you.
So it's just a great time. You see high fives and pats on the back, and just a real integrated activity that just provides the same opportunities that you and I take for granted.
Take the old truck, we drive it across the country with the old truck. He said we can put it in high gear as long as you don't hit a cow. I said, okay, we take it on. That we send to a future we're never going to see. Think about that. Powerful thought. Your children are a living message you're sending to a future you're never going to see. As they go to that future, what kind of people do you want to send?
No, it's not a young movie star, just my 7-year-old son Jimmy visiting the dentist to have some sealants applied to 4 of his teeth. The shades are there to protect his eyes from the bright lights. As for the dental sealants, well, along with proper brushing and fluoride treatments, we're hoping these sealants will help to keep his teeth cavity-free. What are they? Well, sealants are actually a plastic coating which creates a barrier against food and bacteria, the kinds that cause tooth decay. They're particularly helpful on the back teeth or molars. These teeth typically have very small pits and fissures which can trap microscopic particles of food. Very difficult to clean out with a toothbrush, but the sealant can help keep them out.
Put your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Right up there.
The tooth is roughened up a bit first, and then the plastic sealant, which is the blue stuff, is applied to the tooth. High-intensity light then hardens the plastic in less than a minute. This plastic, incidentally, is non-toxic and can last up to 7 years.
This is the last one. Okay, open up for me.
One of the best things about applying sealants is that the process really shouldn't hurt, even though Jimmy thought the taste was awful. Look at that face.
Okay. You're set.
Once in place, the sealants are invisible and you can eat and drink immediately after they're applied. The American Dental Association recommends all children have them to protect those pearly whites. I'm Dr. Dave Nida for NBC News.
It's a major problem for the city of Duluth. You know, we should not be letting raw sewage run into the lake, which is what happens when the system is overloaded. We have to correct the problem. It's our problem. We have to fix it.
Duluth won't be done with their study until then anyway. On total cost. Yeah. And a lot of what, I mean, labor and industry, whatever they have, this workers' comp advisory committee, which is like, right. And fields are hooked right up into the sanitary system, so that any water that runs down the side of the house or off the roof usually gets down into that drain, and it goes right into the our sanitary system.
Get a damper on this scene.
Thank you very much. To have that kind of quality. And I'm very excited and very, very confident to work with this community and to work with the orchestra musicians and to work with wonderful people who really volunteer support symphony. They have
I think the board agrees that you make a nice noise when you're up on the podium. And I'd like to introduce to you Dr. John Sanford, who is chair of the search committee. He'll explain some of who have been very important in the process. I also see our depot director, Bill Miller, here. So, Bill, we've made it through another search, and to introduce to you our new conductor, who is Yang Yan Hu, who currently is the conductor of the Lincoln.
On this first one, we were just sort of shooting. We were hoping to sell as many as we could, and the turnout has been just unbelievable. The community and not only Duluth, but the surrounding area as well. We have a group from Virginia.
Thank you.
At the Robert Wood Johnson Medical School, volunteer Winston Phipps will have a product derived from cow's blood injected into his veins. Yes, an artificial blood derived from cows.
I'd say I'm a little nervous about it. It's obviously nothing I've done before, so there's a little trepidation there.
The product is made from cow hemoglobin. That's the molecule that carries oxygen and makes blood red. At N183 Incorporated in New Jersey, the hemoglobin is coated with polyethylene glycol, or PEG, sort of a medical M&M that won't melt in the body and won't cause rejection.
I envision it would be used in the field in trauma situations, such as to stock ambulances for emergency use. I envision it could be used in the operating room.
Human blood has to be sorted by type, is difficult to store, and can carry diseases such as hepatitis and AIDS. There are several companies competing to make an artificial blood that won't have these problems. N183 says its coating approach works for other medical products now.
So it's the use of this experience that has enabled us to now coat the bovine hemoglobin and make it an effective product for testing.
The product, made here in this special clean room, may have a use beyond just a blood substitute. In animal testing, it made tumors more sensitive to radiation. So this product may be approved first to help fight cancer. But for now, doctors just want to make sure the product is safe. Chuck K had some injected 6 weeks ago, and so far?
I feel fine. No side effects, no ill effects.
Steve Gendel for NBC News.
But they're talking about a loss. The allocation formula, it might get us down time or another, and the board has to pass.
We're getting very mixed messages. Depends as to who you talk to out there, but basically I would say that the message that I've been receiving is that we could be assured that there could be cuts of approximately $5 to $6 million coming down from the federal government.
The confusion of any type of cutbacks, you also have the confusion of overlapping. They're spread across the budget. That's spread entirely across St. Louis County. Their tax bill that does not include a hacker reduction or have to be
private citizen came to us and said, hey, so-and-so, again, because the better accredited.
The other thing is that we are much more aggressively pursuing arson because of our experience of last year. It's a major problem in the United States. Arson and fire kills a lot of people, does a lot of damage. If we eliminate